South Africa's trade deficit will widen even further by the end of the year. This is the forecast of trade specialist Blue Strata, reacting to the announcement of the latest trade data by the South African Revenue Services. Spokesperson Greg Klein says government needs to address the challenges facing the import and export industry, as it is key to growing the economy.
There's still heavy demand for imported product into South Africa. A lot of the manufacturing sector's ability to produce and export has been hampered by issues such as the volatility of the rand for imported parts. And then labour, of course, is obviously the big ticket item that's on everybody's agenda. The production costs are going up, and we're seeing that the unions at strike season, they're coming with demands that are difficult to meet. And so, government needs to play a role in trying to bring stability to labour and to the unions, and it's just not happening.
The Chamber of Mines has agreed to bilateral discussions with the National Union of Mine Workers, NUM, ahead of this year's crucial main collective bargaining negotiations in the mining sector. The one-on-one pre-negotiation in Daba was requested by NUM in a written request to the Chamber a week ago. Senior Executive for Industrial Relations at the Chamber of Mines, Dr. Elise Stradom.
It will require all of us, all the stakeholders, to work collectively to ensure that there's peace and stability, that we conduct our wage negotiations in a professional manner, that people respect the law, and that we see that we can come to an outcome which would be mutually beneficial to both the companies and the employees.
The rand has steadied against the dollar in early trade this morning and is likely to gain value in the session. The currency is rebounding from a sharp and dramatic fall that saw it dipping to a 4-year low last week. A short while ago, the rand was trading at 10 rand 6 against the dollar, not far off its close in New York on Friday. The rand's recovery will depend on whether there is more negative news on mining and plans for the U.S. Federal Reserve's quantitative easing program. Traffic on the N1 and N2 into Cape Town has come to a virtual standstill this morning due to the continuing heavy rainfall, which has been lashing the Cape Peninsula since the weekend. Traffic lights in most areas around the city are not working. SABC traffic correspondent Rob Byrne has the details.
Flooding and just wet and slippery roads, and on top of that even more motorists into their cars rather than using public transport during these wet conditions. So generally the condition in Cape Town this morning has been very slow, exceptionally slow, noticeable on the highways, but then with those traffic light outages also an impact onto the secondary roads as well. Rob Byrne, SABC Traffic.
Overseas, the death toll in a fire at a poultry processing plant in northeast China has risen to at least 112, with more than 50 injured. Many of the victims were trapped inside the buildings. The BBC's John Sudworth reports from Shanghai.
The fire broke out at a large poultry processing plant in the township of Mishaze in China's northeastern Jilin province at around 6 in the morning, trapping workers inside the buildings. There are reports that the fire took hold following 3 explosions in an electrical system. Workplace safety standards can often be poor in China, with fatal accidents regularly reported at large factories and mines.
The trial of the U.S. soldier who passed on hundreds of thousands of secret documents to the WikiLeaks website will open in a military court later today. Bradley Manning, who served in Iraq, faces charges of aiding the enemy, something he denies. The soldier said he wanted to provoke a debate about American involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan. Here's the BBC's Mark Mardell.
In this court-martial, many of the facts aren't in dispute. While serving as an intelligence analyst in Iraq, Private Bradley Manning downloaded 250,000 diplomatic cables, 500,000 battlefield reports on the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as graphic footage of a helicopter attack which killed a Reuters photographer. He then passed them to WikiLeaks, which published many of them. He's pleaded guilty to 10 offences, but not to the most serious charge against him of aiding the enemy, which carries a maximum sentence of life in prison.
Recap